I'm going to invite one such innovator, which is Clear, and I'm going to invite Pranesh Vittal, who's the Director of Engineering with Clear, to stage, please. Welcome, Pranesh. The stage is all yours.
Thank you.
Here you go.
Good morning, everyone. So just a brief introduction about myself. And I'm Pranesh Vittal, and I work as Director of Engineering at ClearTax. So basically, my charter or the role at ClearTax is like, let me put it very simple, all things infra. So whatever the infrastructure touches, it could be the DevOps practices, it could be the site reliability, it could be the databases, it could be the InfoSec, pretty much everything pretty much everything infra touches me in some way or the other. So just in case if you are thinking that, okay, why is an infra guy representing on a MongoDB event? There's a past to it. So I have been a MongoDB user since early 2015. So MongoDB was version like 2.6 when I started my journey with MongoDB. So we set up the basic community edition at MedLife. So that was back in 2015, and I was involved as a part of the initial setup when we did it at MedLife. So MedLife was an e-pharma company which got acquired by Pharmacy. That was some 2 years ago. And so we were responsible for setting up the cluster, scaling it to the needs of the business. And it's indeed a very pride moment for me that, okay, this cluster that I set up once in a time. And so almost 6 years later when we got acquired by Pharmacy. So that cluster was like the center of the entire MedLife's business, I would say. It had logged almost more than 1,000 crore worth of business inside it. And directly or indirectly, I was responsible for managing it and scaling it as per the needs of the business. So yes, in my entire tenure that I had with little less than 6 years at MedLife, I was like on call for the majority of the time because there was always one or the other issue that we would run into, and it was indeed a difficult journey that I would say. So one thing that I had as a learning during my tenure at MedLife, I don't want to manage anymore. Self-management is something which is not, it's good for a company which is not in that blitzscale mode. So wherein, okay, you have a steady state business, you don't expect to grow at a much faster pace. It makes sense to have a community edition. But if you are on a blitzscale mode wherein you are adding, say, thousands of users every month, you're running a business wherein you're generating at least a few lakhs of revenue every single day, then MongoDB community edition or any database for that matter, it becomes a painful thing, and I would strongly advocate for a managed service. So, okay. So coming to my existing tenure, so ClearTax, where ClearTax is my employer, and so we use MongoDB quite extensively at Clear. So just let me give a small, snapshot or a overview about this company. So as a company, we started way back in 2011. So when we started it for the ITR filing. So I'm sure there's a good chance that, okay, majority of you guys would have heard or used ClearTax for your ITR filing. Just in case, even if you have not heard or used about it, so you would have heard something called Neha from ClearTax, right? So which keeps popping up in your mailboxes whenever there is this IT filing season. So yes, it's the same company which I'm part of. So we have roughly about more than 6 million registered users who use our platform for their ITR filing. And in terms of the registered numbers, we are second only to the Government of India's IT portal, okay, in terms of the registered users. So that was about the B2C journey, which we started in a very humble manner. So sometime during 2017, so when the Government of India introduced GST, okay, July 2017, so ClearTax pivoted into B2B space, wherein we started offering SaaS product, okay. So our product, as of today, is used by at least 50,000 plus tax professionals, more than 1 million small business units, 50,000 enterprises, larger enterprises. So they use ClearTax for managing their GST filing every single month. And then sometime during end of 2020, so we launched a product for electronic invoicing because the government of India came up with this new initiative called electronic invoices. So that's where we pivoted, or rather built a product meant for electronic invoicing. So this is the first product in ClearTax which started using MongoDB. Okay, so this was the journey of journey of MongoDB at ClearTax. And then sometime last year, we went international with a launch of our e-invoicing product meant for Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So that was the first time that we went international. So the good thing about India when it comes to taxation is like we are far ahead compared to the other countries. So whatever India did, many countries are yet to follow, and some of them are like late starters. As I said, 2020 we started in India, KSA started last year, and other Gulf countries will be starting maybe next year or whenever they feel right. So this is one product which unfortunately we don't have it on MongoDB Atlas, because in KSA, due to data sovereignty reasons, there's neither AWS, there's no GCP, or there's no Azure. So we have to set up our infrastructure as MongoDB in an enterprise edition on Ops Manager. So that's the only product that we don't have at this. Looks like MongoDB and Oracle are the competitors. They will never ever have OCI as their partner when it comes to hosting MongoDB. So yeah, that's about the KSA journey. And the last tile that I have is about the new suite of products that we have started building it. So it's a suite of about 8 different products, so which are going to solve majority of the use cases meant for the CFO office. So if you look at any of the companies wherein there is a CFO office involved, so they would have a lot of challenges, right? From the moment they would have to manage their sales and purchase data, how do they do their GST filing, how do they apply for something called input tax credit, how do they file their TDS. So there's a whole lot of problem statements that we solve as a part of this particular product. It's a suite of about 8 products, and 6 out of those 8 products use MongoDB Atlas as the database engine, and the 2 other products actually came from an acquisition. All right, so that's a brief about ClearTax. So given that, okay, we have been we have been using MongoDB quite extensively, I wanted to start, or rather giving more details. So as an engineer, as a technologist, as someone who would like to solve problems, so we all should start with a why. So why MongoDB? So the answer is with regard to the use cases. So the use cases that we solve in general at ClearTax, MongoDB was much suited compared to the other database engines. I'm not here to bash other databases, or I'm not going to say that, okay, MongoDB is like a Swiss knife, which is going to solve all of the problems. But the use cases that we had at our end, MongoDB suited very well, and more precisely, MongoDB Atlas. So we wanted to have an ability in our products wherein we could split the reads and writes to handle the traffic and the volume. So wherever we wouldn't need use cases of very strong consistency, wherein we can accept stale data. So during such times, we went ahead with, this actually suited us a lot. And then we did a whole lot of rewrite of our products. So it could be the GST product that we have, it could be the e-invoicing, the TDS. So whatever that we had, so we did rewrite with MongoDB as the database engine. And our products have a lot of regression-related use cases, so which I will be covering in the subsequent slides. So long story short, whatever the POC that we did, so MongoDB was suitable for the workload that we operate. All right, so this is just some of the POC experiments that we did here at ClearTax. So wherein, so the one that you are seeing, batch size of 1, 10, whatever that you see, right? So we as a company, we deal a lot with B2B data. So it could be the sales data, it could be the purchase data, wherein the customer, or rather the companies would buy goods from their vendors and they would sell it to their customers. So one is called sales data, the other one is called the purchase data, okay? So, and each of these would contain invoices or the line items. So basically, if you are a B2C customer, let's say you are buying a product from Amazon or Flipkart, you might buy, say, 1 to 10 items, not more than that, right? So that's like a one line item or whatever, that is actually the first one. So if it is to do with one business to the other business, it will involve tens of line items. And if it is something to do with an action like warehouse to warehouse transfer, so wherein you're actually moving from one of your account to the other warehouse, so that will involve a whole lot of line items. So our customer data is mostly the data in the form of sales and purchase, which will have the lot of line items. And when we did the ingestion of these data across the database engines, so we saw a lot of improvement in terms of how MongoDB performed compared to the other database engines. So obviously, our workloads or the use cases that we are solving, MongoDB happened to be a very good fit. So yeah, these were the results of the POC data. And coming to the modernizing. So basically, every product that we build would have an expiry date. Unfortunately, it's the hard truth. You have to accept it some way or the other. Every product that one would build would have an expiry date. So when you build a product, it would have been useful for certain use cases, for a certain set of customers. You would be intending to build an MVP, minimum viable product. But in the due course of time, once you start getting more business, once you start acquiring more customers, when all of that happens, there is a need for us to take a step back and then see that, okay, where do I stand? How do I build? So that's where when we did this particular activity, so the earlier stack was on MySQL, and then we did a lot of optimization. We did a lot of, so we had our own learnings from the past. Using all of that plus MongoDB as the backend, so we were able to cut down the ingestion time compared to the MySQL and the MongoDB. The results were like pretty amazing. So our customers, when they saw the MongoDB's product, they were like, is that it? Is it done? So this is the kind of impression that we were able to give them. This was the kind of experience that we were able to give them. So overall, all of that taking into account, so MongoDB happened to be the best choice for the applications that we have built. Coming to the power of aggregation. So as you can see this particular slide, so I don't know if it is clearly visible. So this is a page or as a part of our product. So wherein you can see a lot of filters, you can see a lot of sliders and things like that. So this is very much required for the tax professionals. So I don't know how many of you guys in the audience would understand the tax complications, because it's a very dry subject. Unless and until you are like a chartered accountant, you wouldn't even think or rather get to the depth of it. But it's pretty complex, and there's a time that is attached to it, because every single month, 9th, 10th, 11th, effectively tomorrow and the next 3 days, there is going to be GST deadline. And these chartered accountants and the tax professionals will be racing against time that, okay, how do I file my taxes on time? So this particular tool that we have built with MongoDB as the backend, so it will be able to match or rather do a lot of reconciliation, because GST is all about sales and purchase data from the top. If you look at it that way, they would have to run through the reconciliations. Their numbers has to match, because the way GST works is it's like a network. In order for someone in the upstream to claim tax credits, the downstream person should apply or rather should have done their GST file taxes. That's when they would get the input tax credit. So that way, they will be able to identify who are the vendors who are compliant, who are the vendors who are non-compliant. This particular tool that we have built will be able to give the customers a lot of, will help them in order to file their taxes on time, because filing the taxes on time is a mandate. And if they don't do it, they would either attract a penalty from the government, and they will be tagged as non-compliant vendor by the other people with whom they are doing their business with. So overall, considering all of this, so we have a lot of aggregation use cases, And what you see, those filters, behind the scenes are like aggregate, which will help our users who are like the tax professionals and the chartered accountants to file their GST tax, file their GST on time. All right. So coming to why MongoDB Atlas. Okay. So as I said about the pain of self-managed clusters, I don't know how many guys would have encountered this. At least I have some of my colleagues sitting here. They will be able to resonate what we all went through. So back in those days, that has obviously been fixed by now. One developer would bring down the company to its knees. All he had to do is, in the command or in the code, build an index with background true. Sorry, without background true. Without background true. So we have experienced it so many times. All it took was just one developer trying to build an index without background true. What would happen? The index will build in the foreground, it will log the databases, it will not allow any reads or writes. Outage, complete outage. Till the time that entire index is built, you're in downtime. I can't even imagine the kind of guardrails that I myself have put in order to avoid this, but it happens. Because humans at the end of the day tend to make mistakes. Yes, so be it. And I can't even tell you how many times that we have had to kill a running index query or roll the primary to a secondary. It's painful, because imagine you're not at your workplace and the release would happen in the middle of the night, everything will come down. And there's too much of administrative activities that needs to be performed as a part of the self-managed. And backup and restore, let's not even talk about it, because when I was performing the backup and restore, if someone would ask me, what's your RPO? I would be like, I have no clue. I just run Mongo dump, and whatever it takes, that's about it. That's how, because if you are very serious about your business, wherein you are answerable to your customers, then obviously you better know all of these answers. Otherwise, you'll be in deep trouble. So this certainly was not at all working as a part of the self-managed cluster. And coming to the MongoDB support. So yeah, we've had a lot of instances wherein, as a part of our POC, right? So there were times when we would do some extensive POC. We would file a support ticket well in advance to the MongoDB team that, okay, we are going to do this POC. So this is what we are expecting. And we would get, at times, the MongoDB engineer on call when the tests are running. They would capture some of these stats and then share it with us. So this was indeed pretty helpful for us to, solve all of these problems. And of course, the consultation. So a lot of things that we deal with is like a type 1 decisions, at least when it comes to the database engines, when it comes to the schema design. So they are so important that you screw it for the first time, you're married to that problem. There is no way that, okay, you can move away from it. You're like screwed till you come up with the subsequent implementation. So yes, this is where the MongoDB consultation was indeed very helpful for us. And then the ability to search and archive data for the long-term storage. So we have been using electronic invoicing product, which is built on top of MongoDB. Till date, we have generated more than 20 crore e-invoices, okay, till date, at least that one. And we are still running on the same single shard cluster, able to manage with a 4 terabyte disk. That's because anything older than, say, 1 year, we don't need to have it as a part of the hot storage. It can move into cold storage, and we are able to retrieve whenever it is required. Of course, the retrieval is on the slower side, but it's okay. Better than having to, run it on a really big cluster. So overall, at Clear, so we have been managing at least 25 plus MongoDB cluster of varying shapes and sizes, all the way from M10 to M80, and during like filing deadlines when we expect a really big spike, we would even go till M200. So that's the scale at which we would have to operate. And so we have more than, say, 10 terabyte of data already in MongoDB as of now. And we use the auto scaling or the triggers to scale it down during the night very extensively. So we have set up a process, because the nature of business that we are in, majority of the users would be logging in during the day. During the night, I can certainly scale down my systems. And imagine just an 8-hour scale down, we are going to bring the cost down by at least to the tune of anywhere about $700 per cluster. And we do that kind of an exercise for at least 10, 15 clusters. So we are easily saving anywhere about $7,000 just like that. So overall, yeah, Atlas Search is what we use quite extensively, and the other apps that you can see. So with that, I come to the end of my presentation. Thanks for being here. I hope you enjoyed my session.